And what is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the BB Brains with another crazy eviction with all the fun stuff going in between it. Because not only did we lose Kamu tonight, but we also had Devins lose his Diamond Power Veto this week. We also had the fun, like always amazing OTEV, and we also got to see Angela, of all people, win the Big Brother blockbuster tonight. So, a wild week to transpire. A lot has happened, and a lot is likely going to happen going into next week. But how did we get here? How did all this transpire? And ultimately, what led to Kamu's eviction tonight? Because, my God, this week, it's been insane, to say the least. So let's get into it. And I just want to preface this by starting this off. I feel like I'm cursing these people because every time I try to rank someone highly in my book, which is on its last few pages, might I add. So this will be the final rankings in this book. And I apologize if you hear my dog barking in the background there. But yeah, no, like last week I ranked Kamu at 6, a little highly, but I still thought he was going to do better going into his position following after. And the fact that he was able to do all this and honestly have a successful HOH week with Yash as the HOH, had the Diamond Power Veto not been played, he would have been sitting in a very pretty position moving forward. So very unfortunate for Kamu, but it was it was something. It was very much something, you know. But yeah, so starting us off, let's just go at the beginning of this week. It starts off with Angela and Haley, with Haley putting shade on Lala for snapping on her, along with Angela basically apologizing for the whole lyric vote out and everything, and putting her Haley into this awkward position in the game, which might I add, Haley is just like she's just like right on like fumes at this point. Her game is pretty much over. I don't even see a scenario where she would likely win. And I feel like even herself is still like at this point, I think kind of on the giving up end. But I don't know. I did like this moment though between Haley and Angela because they're at least like apologizing to each other, and we're being like very close one on one, kind of close back to being on good terms again. And Haley does mention that, she understands what Angela did, but that doesn't mean moving forward she's not going to do her own thing while still working with her, which, is the right sentiment to have. If someone still wants to work with you, even after they didn't vote the way you did or even blindside you, obviously keep that with a grain of salt. But, with Haley's position right now, kind of limited options. I mean, the fact that the Red Corner Alliance is essentially dead, and whatever trio that would have been named Haley, Chuck, and Kamu is also now dead, with her being the last one standing. She's going to need as much allies as possible now. And then following after that, we got Drew and Melody talking to each other. We'll discuss who Haley would nominate, and with Mel being pissed, being at the whim of the other players and stuff. She's like, I need to win this competition tonight, see if I can do something with my game, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because everyone in the house now, other than Melody, has won a competition. Just like some funny food for thought there. But I mean, I hope Melody can win something in the future. An HOH would be amazing. Sorry, I'm yawning. But it's just such rough competition. With Kamu going, at least, it does lighten the load on some comp threats. I mean, the fact that he was second in the wall comp, Dev put some ire on others, and him mentioning tonight in his like speech to the house before getting evicted, it's like, well, I mean, I lost to 2 older women. Like, am I really that much of a threat? Which, you know, I mean, he tried, but I don't know if he was just being humorous with it or not. After that, we had Kamu and Haley talking, and they're kind of rekindling their thing. And then Haley then drops a bomb on Kamu that Dee was telling her that Kamu was using the Bible as a means to like strategize and stuff on people, try to like lie on it and do all these things, which has him all pissed off. And he's just like, Dee, what the hell? I thought I trusted you, blah, blah, blah on that. And you know, I mean, at least Kamu caught wind of this. When it came to the sentiment of how Haley phrased it, it was kind of like some hearsay that she got. It was also just like from how Drew was kind of pushing that narrative after his conversation with Kamu the night before Lyric got evicted, because that's what he was stating on that, which led to the vets to flip on him. It was a whole thing with that. So it might have just been in some reference to that particular moment. So after that, we get to the HOH competition, New Year's 1999, and Melody has to make me feel my age by saying, I wasn't even born yet. I'm just like, good for you, Melody. Good for you, as I cry, almost turning 33 this year. But yeah, it's the infamous knockout comp, and Brandon Donlin, who is from Dee's season, really got her a lot of information for this week on how to play the game when it came to the knockout comp and about OTEV, which she did nothing with that information and essentially threw that out the window and decided to not only pick Devins as her person to compete against, but to also just like immediately regretted later in this week, and then later competing in the OTEV comp and also fail at it, which ultimately then led to just her being on the block this week and her pretty much almost leaving. If Dee did not do well that Big Brother Blockbuster comp tonight and was beaten out by Angela, there could have been a scenario where she could have left over Haley. Granted, though, I think it would have been the same thing. It would still been 5 votes. Well, no, actually, it could have gone the other way. It could have been 4 votes to keep Dee, and like the rest could have voted her out. So really needed for her at that point. But yeah, it was knockout competition. Everyone was knocking each other out. It was basically like to find the bugs for the Y2K crisis thing, which again, I was like fairly young when 1999 was around with the whole Y2K crisis, so not too familiar with it, even with my young brain at the time. But everyone was kind of freaking out about it, from what I at least recalled. And there was a lot of like TV shows and stuff that referenced it. Interesting thing. I just don't feel like, I don't know. It just kind of feels like they're kind of trained back to like the Ainsley stuff from 26, because it's just like kind of similar scenario. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking too hard on it. But anyway, when it comes to the final round, it's between Yash and Barrett, and Yash takes it home. He's the new HOH, and good chunk of the house is kind of like, what do we do now? And it's going to be interesting. And Angela is rightfully so pissed off at Dia Devins for handling that competition horribly. Like they're really like under the impression like the whole house doesn't believe that they are working together, which no, that's not the case at all. It's like, if a certain group of people are coming into the house together that are reality TV icons and a cast of newbies, just assume that they're working together. Just assume that they have final 2, final 3, final whatever deals. Because if you don't go into that mindset with them in that competition, you're already a step behind. And it was that mindset that got Kamu on the block. It's that mindset that had Yash believe that he had all this control over the veterans and like think that the veterans weren't that close. And it's just like, this is the the punishments that you get for having clear ignorance to something that should have been very obvious from the start. So after that, we got Melody talking about how she distrusts Yash and wants him to not anyone but someone from FAF, because they were at least someone from FAF has been nominated every week up until this week. So fair there. And then Lala, Taylor, and Yash are celebrating his win because the three have been close. They have been slowly starting to work together, and again, have been pulling in Kamu. Granted, not going to be of much use now, but it's at least something to know. And then after that, we got Dee and Devins celebrating the Yash win because of the Wolfpack Alliance, which was a fake alliance that they made. And it's very interesting to see how many fake alliances were made this season, especially the ones that Devins had to note in one of his moments in the episodes this week, because my God, there's just too many to keep track of. But yeah, after that, Angela and Haley, they talk again. Haley feels fine with the Yash HOH, with Angela being skeptical. And then throughout the episode too, Haley's just being delusional, thinking that she's going to be the one to get the next power because she's had a rough week with her HOH. With even Angela, you sure about that? You sure about that? And then after that, we got Baron and Dee talking. They discuss who Yash would target, with Dee downplaying the whole situation because she's in the alliance with them. Little does she know in the future there. And then after that, we got Yash and Kamu talking to each other. They celebrate with Yash considering the icons and Haley as noms. And then Kamu was pushing that Dee was the reason for the flip-on lyric, and he considers Mel and Dee like Melody and Dee as the pawns, through Yash's eyes. But Kamu was trying to push harder for Dee as the target and a pawn at the same time. Obviously, to elevate from pawn status to target, which was the case this week. And again, had Kamu stayed, I think he could done a lot of damage in this game for a social game alone. His social game was very impressive. It's just that personality outside the game, horrid. So I could not refer that. But it was very interesting to see that play out. And then after that, we get the BB time capsule where we see Melody win it, and it's just befuddled. It's are you serious? You guys really voted for me? And unfortunately spun onto a punishment where she became the Lady of the Latrine, which I feel like it was more the Yeller of the Latrine. But it was pretty fun just seeing her go about just doing all the stuff. It felt like more was a punishment for the house because they all had to go to the bathroom and she would have to be the one to unlock it every single time. And seeing Haley's reaction was hilarious, to say the least. The fact that Haley was so certain she was going to win that award, and the fact that it was the person that she was hating on in the house wins it, just irritated her so much. So after that, we got Yash, Drew, and Kamu talking to each other, and Yash is basically noting he does not want to nominate a man this week. He feels that the men are kind of being taken out one by one, and a woman should be leaving this week. And in that, he was trying to figure out who to nominate, with Kamu once again pushing Dee as the target. And note, Haley should be up as a pawn. And Drew is just kind of taking it all in and stuff, where obviously he's going to push to keep Melody off the block because of them being so close, but also doesn't want to push too hard so he doesn't get nominated in return. And later on, Kamu then uses Dee's survivor win to push her further as the target. And it just gets to a point then, Yash and Devins are then talking to each other, where Yash pushes Angela and Dee to him to be the nominees because he cuts his hair. He cuts his hair and he has to tell them, which, as someone who has been following Devins' wife on social media, she's not a fan of it. And neither are a lot of other people, because Yash, out of all people, should not be commenting on haircuts, let alone helping with him. So, but yeah, it's like Yash still wants to work with Devins, and he is wanting Devins to be aware of this because he is likely going to nominate those two, which I don't like. I understand where his logic is. Yash has had some good moves this week socially. However, there has been plenty of blunders from him. And we'll talk about it when it comes to the veto side of this. But socially, his biggest blunder was even telling Devins at all, like about the targets that being D and Angela, because at that point, if you're targeting two of the veterans, it's gonna be a red flag to Devins, regardless of how you're gonna like try to sway it. It's not gonna look good to him, and it's definitely gonna put a target on his back and to Devins' eyes because he's gonna see, well, you're taking the first shot at the vets, and that means I am gonna look vulnerable in the future. And I don't think Yash considered that. And I think that's why there's been so much panic from the vets this week now. And it's getting to a point where Yash could be the next target going to next week if a vet was to win HOH. So after that conversation, Devins notes how he's not a fan and notes it damages the wolf pack. And like pushes that, hey, leave Angela on the block. Just take D off of it. Which we put on hold for a bit. And then we go to a conversation between D and Devins where he tells D about the plan and notes to her to use the bribe to potentially have the noms be switched over. So we have, following after that, Angela and Yash talking. She's basically pleading her case to him. And he's just like, you're an agent of chaos. I have to nominate you. And she's like, even if you nominate me, I won't nominate you in the future. I won't say your name in the future, Yash. And he's like, okay, sure, Angela, sure. But then after that, we get the more needed D and Yash conversation where she essentially tells him, like, hey, I heard you're trying to nominate me. What if I were to bribe you to take myself and Angela out of the equation? Where he's like, I don't know about that. And then she's like, falls backwards, like, well, what if it's just me? What if then? And he's like, well, $5,000 for La Chipotle sounds very tempting. But then come nominations, he turned it down because he nominates D, Angela, and Haley on the block, ultimately at the end of the day. Which, again, at that point, you might as well, because it's very much clear that that he just made this decision with a lot of Kamu's influence. If I had to say who ran the HOH this week, it definitely wasn't Yash. It was definitely Kamu's HOH. But it's just like, it does have some benefit to Yash for those nominations. Granted, at that point, I'd rather just nominate all three vets, just so that way no weird scenarios could go out. Because if D used her bribe on Yash after he had his conversation with Devins, you should assume Devins has a power too. And at that point, I would not trust Devins, because obviously he does not have my best interest in mind. So why should I have his? So nominate all three vets at that point. So just that way it might flush out another power, which honestly should have been the case. But what can you do? But whatever. That's where the nominations lie. That's where the episode ends. And then going to yesterday's veto episode, we started off with like D and Kamu talking to each other, where D asks if he knew she'd go up, where he lies, and she tells him she bribed Yash and that he wants her out. Nice. Like, because he clearly does not trust her anymore. He did not trust her game after the whole lyric situation, since it blew up all of Red Corner, and he had to basically build his game up from scraps. And it's just at that point where like everyone knew at that point, it's like, okay, D and Kamu no longer going to work together. It is very clear that they're going to be enemies now. And then after that, we get Angela and Barrett talking to each other. Angela's crying. He's consoling her. She's like, I know I didn't want to do that. I knew I didn't want to cry with this because I knew it was going to happen, but it's just how I am. And she just doesn't want to let anyone down. It says she'd pick Barrett for the veto to compete, and he said he's willing to use a veto and draw lines in the sand because Drew and Barrett have essentially been the lapdogs of the vets this entire time. Now, had Barrett won the veto, likely he probably would have used it on D because of all the people in the game. D is kind of closest to Barrett. And earlier this week, which we had a little bit of it shown on the episode where D is like crying about being numbed, which has him consoling her, where she regrets her actions during the HOH comp. What was not shown is that Barrett like kissed her on the cheek affectionately, where her face like the Jim Halper face, and a lot of people were like up in arms on it. Quite honestly, I don't think it was like anything like a Caleb and Amber situation from Big Brother 16, but I don't know. I think it was just very much like him just being affectionate with her. The two have been very close, and it's just like I don't want to like go too crazy into the deep dive of it, but it was just like him just like consoling her. But it was obviously like, yeah, Barrett, this ain't gonna work with you two. It's definitely like eh. But after that, we have like a Yash and Thug moment where she's upset about being nommed, and Yash says she's like the perfect to pick up as an ally. Where she's like, "Then why the hell would you nominate me?" In her confessional, like, which you get. As annoying as Haley can be at times, she has good reads when she needs them to be, or at least have like truth bombs to drop at the random moments. And after that, we got Drew, Mallory celebrating that FAP has finally not been nominated on the block, and they assume the vets are the targets, but are aware eyes are on them as a group, which is true because they are a foursome. Like even though you have the vets that are a trio, you also have the trio that is Yash, Taylor, and Lala, but the foursome that is FAP, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this is going to be navigated going into this week because we are getting close to jury. We are getting close to potentially a double eviction coming up. So who knows what's going to happen there? But these groups are going to be broken up soon. And it's just a matter of which group is going to really retain their power going forward in these next few weeks. So after that, we got Yash and Drew talking, and Drew thinks he took a big swing with Yash's decision. And Yash tells him that D threw him under the bus, which she did. And he feels some distrust with D, but wants to still work with her. And again, I feel like no matter what kind of information you were to give Drew or Barrett, it just goes out one ear and out the other when it comes to the veterans because they're so loyal to them. And it gets to a point where I don't know if they're going to throw their gains away or not for them. I know Daniel Reyes tonight on the eviction said Barrett is kind of playing like an Andy game from Big Brother 15, being very ratty. And I could see it. I can 100% see the comparison there for both him and for Drew. It's just a matter of, are they going to utilize that to their benefit, or are they going to just be blindly loyal to the veterans? That's the thing I'm very much concerned about when it comes to Drew and Barrett. They are in good graces with them, but it's so clear to the rest of the house they are like just on team vets. Whereas Melody and Mallory were so close to flipping the vote today. Had Angela not won the blockbuster, there could have been a chance that Angela could have been voted out tonight. But when like the last 30 minutes before the feeds dropped, it looked like they changed their minds. But who knows? Like I have the feeds on the background again over here, and it's very much looking like Melody and Mallory are like having a little bit of like some buyer's remorse with this Mosh Pit Alliance. But who knows what's going to happen there in the future. Again, HOH tonight is going to be very interesting. Then after that, we get more of the Lord of the Train segments. Nothing special there. So it's just more of Melody just being like, yeah, like it's an okay thing, but I'm kind of getting annoyed with it, especially in tonight. Glad it was like a 24-hour punishment at the very least, After that, we got Dee and Devon's talking, and Devon's debates on the diamond power of veto usage, and is concerned if it's used, it will blow up his position. Let's be real, it definitely will. It's definitely looked like he is looking like to be the next house target going to next week, depending on who wins HOH. But D obviously hopes that he uses it on her, or either hope that one wins the power of veto. And after that, we get a Kamu and Yash conversation where they form a final two, which is already dead as of this time. And Kamu does think he could beat Yash in the end, which I'm not 100% like sure on, because Yash, I think, has some social credit to himself where I feel like Kamu doesn't. Because I think if it was a final two, and if someone like Melody Mallory were in the jury, they would definitely not vote for Kamu. I could definitely see Taylor vote more for Yash than she might for Kamu, depending on like their answers. Lala could also be up in the air in that category. I just don't think Kamu would be as well liked compared to Yash, and I think he was definitely not as like forward thinking when it comes to that. I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore at this point. Why am I even like going on about this? But yeah, we got a whole final two segment, goes nowhere now. But after that, we get like more of the Melody Drew, like will they, won't they stuff. I kind of like that. I kind of like those showmances more than I do like the showmances that start off strong out the gate, other than like maybe Brunchel. But other than that, though, it's just like those will they, won't they ones are more interesting because it's like, well, are they going to get together? Are they not? Will one be evicted before they confess their feelings? I don't know. And then after that, we got Drew and D talking. Drew throws Kamu under the bus to her, and that D needs to win the power vetoes as a means for him to win her over. Because again, Angela's paranoia basically had all the veterans distrust him, and he's just like feels like there was some off vibes with the veterans, and he's just trying to get the vibes back on again. Which kind of like obvious information there, but at least it gives confirmation to D that Drew is being like loyal to her. But after that, we get the veto players picked, and Melody and Barrett both get picked, where Melody would definitely want to keep the noms the same, and Barrett would obviously want to save D, which kind of saw that coming there. We get Drew and Barrett then talking to each other where they discuss using the veto and how Kamu wanted to target Barrett with Drew saving him because Kamu was trying to not only get D out, but at least any of her close allies, which obviously involves Barrett. And Barrett's like, well, I definitely better win now. But we get to the veto. We travel to the 1950s for this like old school theater thing for OTEV. And can I just say for this OTEV, this is like the most laziest design of OTEV we've seen yet. I know OTEV's been going on since Big Brother 8. But my God, or no, not even Big Brother 8. I think it was Big Brother 6 or 7 because I remember the James. I've been harmed. I doesn't look like I'm harmed, but I'm harmed. It's like that situation. I think it was 7. I think I want to say for that. But either way, going on for a long time, and for this OTED to basically look like a Grimer fused together with Grimace from McDonald's. It's just like, what are we doing here? And the fact that it's so early on top of that, OTEV is a little more later, just so that way we can have like a few, like all the rounds focused on eliminated players. And the fact that it had a mix of that, it was like a little weird, personally. I don't know. I wasn't like the biggest fan of it. And the setup was kind of blah with it being like, hey, this is like focusing on old school movies, and here's the Blob, essentially. And which I get, but like, I don't know. I just didn't really vibe with this one. But we got the elimination order here. We had Angela out in the first round, and both Haley and D out in the second, with D having a wrong answer. Which again, I don't know if Brandon told her this or not, but it's like even if you have the right answer, like, and if you're the last one up, if someone gets the wrong answer, you're safe for the round. So I don't know, kind of a odd choice there. But after that, Melody was out next, and then it came down to Barrett and Yash, with Yash coming out on top again. Like, had the Diamond of Power veto not been played, this would have been an amazing week here for Yash. He would have been having a lot of upside to him for his comp wins, the alliance that he was building, the final two that he made. It was all really well done. It just kind of blew up in his face come the end of the episode. And then after that, we get Yash and Kamu, where they're celebrating the win. They said they're not going to keep the nuns the same. It's going to be an easy week, which again, boy, were they wrong. And after that, we get like the Lord of the Train segment ending. With with all that going on, and like I'm glad it was over, because Melody, there's no way she was going to do that anymore than for the 24 hours, because that was a rough 24 hours to do all that, especially with like Devins and Lala going to the bathroom so frequently. After that, we have Devins contemplating if he wants to use Diamond Power Veto on D, and in doing so, he's like thinking like, well, what if we do this too? If I make this move, let's combine the Veterans Alliance along with crossovers. So they grab Barrett and Drew, and then combine that with Melody and Mallory, so we can have a whole 7-person alliance. And D and Devins like discuss about this plan, where it then just like moves more to the Diamond Power Veto being used, and then with Kamu going. After that, we get Kamu and Devins talking. Kamu pushes D as the threat, and Devins basically confirms his concerns with Kamu, and it's just like, all right, we need to get this going. So it starts out with Devins and Barrett, where he discusses bringing in Melody and Mallory into the group, where it then gets to all of them together, where they all form the Mosh Pit Alliance. And the funny part in all this is that there was just like, well, when we do this together, as like, where like, I'm just like, for people who are just listening, it's just like they're just moving their hands up in the air like they're in a mosh pit, where Kamu walks in on them doing that, which is the funniest part of it all. So we have a 7-person alliance. Is the alliance going to last going into next week? Probably not. I feel like with Melody and Mallory just going back and forth on what they wanted to flip today, it just kind of shows like this light's kind of dead on arrival, and it was just only going to be used for the vote this week, which it wasn't even going to be needed regardless. But after that, we get the power of veto ceremony. Yash doesn't use it, but then Devins interrupts it and goes on this speech where he's just like, yeah, I had this dream with Jeff Probst approaching and all this stuff, blah, 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 and I'm going to use this Diamond Power Veto on D. And I felt like, okay, Devins, we get it. You like to shoot a scenery, but man, this is such a bad speech to make when you're trying to use that power veto. And even then, it's also funny looking at that, because with the history of the Diamond Power Veto, that the one that Matt Hoffman had that he played in 12 also fell apart in his hand because it looked cheaply made. And the one that Devins used also looked cheaply made. It's like, did they just go to the dollar store to build these things? Like, come on, production. But, I shouldn't be surprised, because when Mallory was like looking around the house this week, one of the props that she looked it up had like a price tag underneath it, and it was like marked down. So clearly a lot of the stuff in the house could be thrifted for all we know. So, but yeah, that was the veto episode. So now tonight, we kind of got like a lot of sped up stuff this week of what we were expecting to see. So we see FAP celebrate after the Diamond Power is used, with no one any the wiser that Devins had the Diamond Power veto. There was like a bit of a conversation with all of them together in that room with that. And then we got D and Devins talking, where they celebrate Kamu being on the block and that she is now safe. And again, had that not happened, I think she would have been gone tonight. I think she would have 100% been voted out. And then after that, Kamu pretends to take it well, but will target Devins next. And then after that, Yash, Melody, Drew, and Barrett are talking. And Yash is essentially pushing like the vote, like, hey, we need to focus here. We need to take out Angela. If we can't take out Angela, we'll do Haley. We got to keep Kamu safe. Where everyone in that room is just kind of like egging him on to like continue talking, but also just like, yeah, we're just amazing American people. Just like referencing FAP to his face. And it's just like, oh, Yash. Oh, Yash, it's going downhill for you. It's not looking good at this point. Which, seeing it live, too. Ooh, that was awkward. And then we got D and Kamu talking, where they hash it out, and that they don't trust each other, and like bring up the whole Bible comment. And again, Kamu's like, yeah, I'm going to take out all the bets next week if I have the chance. Which, again, not happening now. But But after that, we get Kamu beginning his campaign to Mallory and tells her about the power D had to get her to flip. And Yash joins in as well on the matter. And this has been a whole thing that Yash and Kamu have been doing this week, which I think was the correct thing. You needed to speak to Mallory and Melody to ensure the votes in some degree. However, some other things you had to also confirm was Barrett and Drew. Because the way that the vote was going to be, it was going to be 5 votes this week. And with Angela being on the block, even if Melody and Mallory flipped and Taylor didn't flip after Melody and Mallory told her, like, hey, we're going Kamu, it still would have been 5-4. So they needed in some way, shape, or form a flip from Drew or Barrett in those scenarios. Had Haley gotten off the block, they would have had the numbers. Had they had Kamu get off the block, they would have had the numbers. It's just in that scenario, nothing was going to change on that. But even if Haley or Kamu won tonight, it was confirmed like 30 minutes before the feeds drop for the live episode that Mallory and Mel are like, yeah, I think we have to like post this week and just either vote out Haley or Kamu at this rate. So it was a moot effort regardless. So it wasn't going to matter. But it still continues because after that, we get a whole conversation with Yash, Melody, Kamu, Mallory, where they're also, telling her about that D has a power and that she's trying to use it on Yash. And then Yash said, well, she was probably going to explain that it was probably going to put up both you both, which he wasn't 100% that she would push for that, but he's just trying to get as much initiative as possible, which I think is the right call. And again, just didn't work out. And I do like that, Barrett joins the conversation and kind of just kills it. It was just like, hey guys, and everyone's just like, oh. But after that, we get a conversation with Kamu, Melody, Lala, and Yash, where they discuss that the vets need to be the targets and they have to do whatever they can to get that going. With Mel being again, just I don't know what to do at this point. I don't know what we can do. So we get the final scene before going to the blockbuster of her and Mallory just talking to each other, where it's just they don't trust the vets. They don't trust the Drew and Barrett situation of it all, but they also don't trust Kamu. They don't know where they stand in all this, but that they know that they're in the middle. So it's going to be a very awkward situation for them. But I think with Angela winning the competition tonight, this was their best case scenario because it still puts them in the middle position, still puts them in good standings. Now, granted, they told Drew about this, and Drew, being Drew, told the veterans about this. And it really grind my gears seeing how entitled Dee and Devins were, basically telling Drew and Barrett, if these two flip, we are going to ruin your games. This will be your fault. We don't care if it was from their own volition. It's who are you to say all this? So vividly, might I add, so not vividly, viciously, might I add. And I'm just what's with this entitlement? I get it that you'll likely be down a number if Angela goes, but the fact that you're acting so entitled in all this is so infuriating. And I'm so over Dee and Devin's entitled attitudes this whole week with this. And I do hope that at some point that they are putting the block together and one of them does leave, because it is getting to a point where this entitledness is just gross to watch. And I know Drew and Barrett just swipe it off like it's nothing, but it's you should be concerned because it's very clear they don't value you guys. They don't value you as players. And it just annoys me so much that they're just ignoring it. So after that, we cut to the blockbuster, which is the competition that Angela did. I believe Angela did compete against Tucker in that competition in 26, where it's you're just grabbing the balls like you're in one of those play places to get your tickets and stuff. And you have to grab 10 balls for one end that are yellow and 10 red balls on the other end. And the strategy that funnily enough, Angela did tell Haley and Kamu about, was that you have to be on the floor, on the corner to get the balls to you so that you can put them in the right spots. And it paid off because Angela won. I was so shocked. I did not expect Angela to win this competition. I didn't expect Angela to win any blockbuster competition. But the fact that she was able to pull it off, I had to laugh. And I had to give my kudos to her. The plan worked. And I'm so glad that she shouted out Tucker tonight in her eviction vote. It's just like, hope I made you proud, Tucker. It's like, respect. I have to give credit where credit is due there for Angela. And honestly, moving forward, I think Angela is in a really good position to go far in this game. And I would not be surprised if Angela could pull a win because her social game has drastically improved from her first season. And she has people in her corner at times. So I don't know. I think Angela could be in a very good position moving forward in this game with eyes being on T and Devins, Taylor and Yash, maybe Barrett and Drew. It's just like I feel like she's gonna be like really much just coasting by. And then when it came to the eviction, it was very clear Kamu was a goner, and it looked like Melody and Mallory because they were going to tell Josh, Taylor, and Yulala about the vote before the vote happened about them going to vote out Kamu. I guess they only had enough time to tell Taylor, and basically it came to an 8-1 vote for Kamu being evicted, with Lala being the outlier because they did not tell her fast enough, and which you could see in her face, like another shocked look from Lala there. But yeah, Kamu gets evicted. I'm honestly okay with it. Kamu's not the best person outside of the game. And quite honestly, I did not want another scenario of like a Cameron or like a Cody to like win America's favorite player again. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take this as a win, regardless, even if I am angry at the veterans and how they've been acting. And like after we get like our interview with Kamu, Julie brought out the next guest for the Big Brother after show, and it was Daniel Reyes, which I actually did enjoy. I do love the Daniel Reyes, and she was very energetic on the stage. I felt like she could be a great co-host to Unlocked, or just great in hosting in general. The way that she was interacting with the audience on top of all of it, but yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty fun interview, and with Julie noting to us, the audience, that Unlocked is going to be on Sunday along with the Sunday night episode. But on top of that, next Thursday is the 1,000th episode of Big Brother, which is insane to for a show like this to have lasted this long and to make it to 1,000 episodes. I gotta give credit where credit's due. I love this show to death. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do for their 1,000th episode and just see what plays out. It's going to be very interesting, and I cannot wait to see that unfold. Especially like who's going to be evicted that night. Like it's going to be a very interesting thing to say. Like, yeah, I was evicted on Big Brother, but I was evicted on the 1,000th anniversary episode. But yeah, that's what I got for this week. This week was kind of just like a straightforward type of week until the Diamond of Vito was played, and even then, it kind of became straightforward because then the vets just, linked together their crossovers alliance with Melody and Mallory to essentially get their votes. And it was kind of like a done deal for Haley or Kamu by the end of the week. So even though, there was some waffling happening, but, that's how it ended up to get to from point A to point B this week for us. So closing off tonight, I have my rankings. And again, these rankings this week are going to be very different to compare these last few weeks, because with everything that's happened over this week, the entitlements that's been happening with the veterans, all the crazy stuff that's happened, and like alliances forming, dissolving, all this stuff, it's going to be a very interesting rankings. So starting off from the bottom up, we obviously have our boots of the season. 17 being Ashley, 16 being Rome, 15 Jason, 14 Lyric, 13 Chuck, and 12 now Kamu. Starting off on the bottom at 11 is Haley. Like I said, she is just right on fumes. She does not have anything going for a game right now. The only thing she has going for her is that she's close with Angela. That's it. That's all that she has at this moment. There have been mentions from the veterans to maybe pull Haley in to their side. So that way they all target Yash, Taylor, and Lala in the coming weeks. But who knows how legit that was going to be. But even then, I don't see a winning scenario for Haley at this time. I don't see much for her game moving forward. I just see her as fodder at the moment. And then at 10 is Lala. I love Lala, but again, she was left out of the vote tonight. She was very much like on the outs now with how everything's happening because Kamu being one of the stronger players that would have been in her corner is now gone. She is going to be in a vulnerable position. Now, do I think she's going to be in a position where she's going to be voted out next to someone like Taylor or Yash? Maybe not. But there's still a scenario where she could leave because people are a little wary of her because she did win the wall after all. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see where she goes. But again, her placement is just not the best right now, and that's why I have to have her that low. After her, right now at 9, is Rick Devens. I've had Rick highly like labeled for most of the season, but the fact of the matter is, him playing that Diamond Power Veto was horrible for his game. Yeah, you're saving D, but quite honestly, I felt like saving D was the worst decision for you than saving her. Because quite honestly, at this point, D is not going to save you, Devins. Because one of the big things this week was that Devins was asking D for her to use her bribe on him so that way he at least has $5,000 in his pocket. And she didn't even do that. And it's already a telling sign right there that D is not fucking with you, Devins. She is going to take you out if the opportunity is there, let alone cut you if it's needed. And I don't know if Devins is truly aware of that, but I felt like the fact that Devins did the TV move rather than the good game move, I don't know. I mean, granted, yes, using Diamond Power Veto for your ally when there's like 2 weeks left of it, I think is noted to be a good play. But the way that it blew up his whole game, I just don't think he's putting him in a good position. And if anyone outside of the veterans, even outside of Drew or Barrett, like win HOH, I can see him being an easy nominee and easily going out the door next week. So right now, I have him at 9, and we'll see if my like notions on this are going to be true or not, like going into these coming weeks. But at 8 is D. Again, D has been number 1 for pretty much this entire season for me. But the fact of the matter is that she took a vacation this week. And not only she took a vacation this week, she was acting entitled this week. She was acting all types of things. And ultimately almost flipped the vote last week, which has really bit her in the ass when it came to the Yash HOH, and is now really grateful that by the gods that Devin saved her ass with the Diamond Power of Veto. And the only reason why I have her slightly above Devins is that she'll likely beat him in a competition if it's like something physical. If the two of them are on the block and they're doing the blockbuster and it's like that rope competition, Devins is gone. Devins is gone. D is likely safe in that scenario. So it's like a low bar right now, but that's where I have those two bets at the moment. And then after her at 7 is Yash. Yash had D gone this week, had Kamu stayed, he would be so much higher on this list. But now that everything that hired, he could be in some danger. He could really be the next one out too. It just all depends on who wins HOH, and I could really see some scenarios where he could be the next one gone. I do see he has some strong social credibility. It's just that he is sometimes hard at reading the room. Like when it came to the whole like storage room and him trying to rally the votes, it just did not work. And when it came to Melody and Mallory, it almost worked, but again, that was through the pushings of Kamu more than was Yash, because Yash and Mallory, they had like a couple hour long conversation about this vote, and neither of them were really swayed when it came to that. Kamu was the one that really helped get that to work more in their favor. So we'll see where that goes there for Yash. At 6, I have Drew. Drew is also in a weird middle position right now where it's like I feel like he could do good, but he could also do bad because I feel like the vet team is expendable. He should see that as a red flag. He's not seeing that though. But despite that, he is positioned well because the vets are going to be targeted. And even if Drew is like a replacement nominee, he's not leaving compared to a veteran. So I'll give him credit where credit's due there. But the fact that Mallory and Melody are onto him about the ratting, it's not looking good for him. And just above him, just barely, is Barrett. I think Barrett is more trusted by the vets. I think Barrett is more trusted by other people in the house. I think people view him less of a rat because of how close he is to D, where it's like more of like an emotional connection. Whereas with Drew, I think people are seeing him as being like a young super fan that's more blinded by that than actually playing the game. That's where I have Barrett. It's nothing too much of a comparison there. They're very much playing the same. I think that those just little things like slightly out edge him over Drew. And at 4, I have Angela. Angela surprised me this week. I feel like she was more level headed. She very much had more of a mellow week despite being on the block and was able to really work her way around the house, really able to keep herself safe, like even in scenario against Haley, against scenario like D, or against a scenario like Common. Now, granted, obviously there could have been some factors in that could have affected that this week, but I think she was able to convey herself in a way that really worked to her favor and kind of benefited her. And honestly, moving forward after this week, I don't see much like going to take her out compared to a D or a Devon's now. And with the upcoming power, I assume is going to be Drew's for the time capsule. You know, whether it's like a slot pass or a coin flip, if it's a coin flip, Angela's going to be safe because Drew do the coin flip just to save her and the other vets. So I don't know. I think she's in a good position. I just don't think she is as good a position or like as good of a player as the other 3 that I'm going to mention. And so at number 3, I have Taylor. Now, Taylor, I know could be in danger this week. I know she could be in strong danger this week. She lost Kamu, but I still think she's in a grand position because she still was trusted enough by Melody and Mallory to tell her about the vote, for one. So that's already a strong point there. She also has Lala. She has Yash. And she could potentially get Drew and Barrett on her side if she or anyone else wins the HOH to maybe get some information to her. And I feel like if there is a power shift and she is in that power position, she's going to take out a veteran, and I think she can be in a strong position moving forward and control the game. But again, if a veteran or potentially Drew or Barrett win HOH, she's likely going to go on a block. And there is a good chance that she could be a target. But again, they could like just flip that over to Yash more than it could be to her. Who knows? But either way, that's where I'm seeing that with her at this time. I still think she's a great player. I think she's in a decent position, and I think she could do a lot of damage in this game, depending on how this HOH outcome turns out. And then number 2, and they're kind of interchangeable for 2 and 1, but 2, I have Melody. Melody, I think it is in a great middle position right now. No one wants to nominate her. She's well liked by the house. I don't think anyone wants to take her out. I think she's in a great position at this time. Her only crutch, though, is that, like I stated before, is that she has yet to win a competition, and I feel like she is needing to get a win to actually get some like form of like, I don't know, say in this game with her peers, because a lot of people are underestimating her, and she's got to do something. And with that, at number 1, then I have Mallory. I think Mallory played this week perfectly. She have everyone wanting to work with her. She has that alliance at 7. Granted, who knows how valid it's going to be. And she's in a great position in the middle, just like with Melody. But again, she actually has some comp prowess to her. And I think that could really work to her advantage. So I think she's in a great position, could really go far in this game. And I do like where she's at this time. So that's where I have my rankings. Who knows? I could be wrong again, and one of my top rankings are going to be the next out this week. But that's where I'm at right now. That's where we're in this whole crazy scenario after tonight. But yeah, my name's Kyle Dorr. This is the BB Brains. I hope you all like the episode tonight, and I'll see you for the next one.